Hello friends and welcome. Any of my friends following along, we have now moved up. We're in the land of chest and upper back, it's true, but today we're actually going to isolate a little bit more in the shoulder and look at shoulder mobility. And that way, when we come back into chest and upper back, we'll have that knowledge of the shoulder to bring with it. I'm going to go out and come in, if that makes sense. Today's practice, you will need, if you have a foam roller, you can use a foam roller. I do not have a wide foam roller, so another way to get around that is you want to have a rolled blanket. And you'll notice I'm kind of the long ways. We're going to end up laying down on the blanket, and we want our whole torso from our head to our pelvis on said object. So if that means you hit pause for a second and find that at your house and then come back, do that. I do believe it is worth it to find that item and bring it. There will be two different exercises we use it for. So when you're ready, go ahead and you're going to put that down in the middle of your mat. And we're going to actually start by lying on that object, right? I'm going to call it a blanket roll, since that's what I'm working with. And anytime I say blanket roll, you know that means whatever you're working with. So I'm going to sit at the end of it, and I'm going to take my time and roll down. Hopefully, again, I have my head on it, but also my sacrum. And I can kind of move around a little bit. If I need extra support, I grab it, a pillow under my head, because my thing's a little short, like just make do, figure it out, right? But don't have anything that sticks out too far, because we're going to work in this land on the outside of the shoulders, yeah? So first, just have yourself in a constructive rest pose. My feet are going to be a little bit wide, my knees are going to lean in, and my arms are out at about a 45-ish. Remember, that's a little air getting in the armpits is how I think about it. And I let myself settle down. And with this smaller roll, as opposed to a whole bolster or the wider blanket setup, right, I really get this ability to let my shoulders soften down around the blanket, down towards the earth. So I get a little chest opening. Just because last week we did talk about solar plexus, a few of my friends might have to just gently, don't get too aggressive with it, gently soften the ribs down, the low ribs down towards the bolster, yeah, the blanket. Notice the shoulder area particularly. Yes, you can release the jaw and the tongue, all those bits and pieces, but definitely check into the area of the shoulders, right? Everything from the side of the neck over to the across the top of the shoulders, right? Shoulder blades, the gleno-humeral joint, which is where the arm bone and the shoulder blade meet. Any of my friends who have shoulder injuries or sensitivities, you're going to move so slowly through this work, right? Bring your arms in by the side, palms face the midline, and just really simply, first we're just going to reach the right arm overhead on an inhale. So the fingertips go up to the ceiling and overhead, maybe to the ground, maybe not. We are up higher, remember. Exhaling, bringing that arm back down. Inhale, left arm reaches up, overhead. And exhale, bring that down. Now we are getting a little more muscularly active with the solar plexus to make sure it doesn't come up. As the right arm moves up, right, contain the ribs and the belly, right? That's that knitting in we did last week. And bring that back down. We want to isolate this in our shoulders. Exhale, left arm is going to reach up. And go ahead and bring that down. Now we're going to reach both arms up. And then we're going to go kind of swimming. We're going to let our arms come out. If the hands can come to the earth, just clear the path, right? And let the arms come all the way down by the side with the palms up. Turn the palms in, reach up and overhead. Maybe towards the ground, palms turn up and circle. So it's like making a snow angel in some regards, right? We're going to do that one more time. Go ahead and reach the arms up. When you come down towards the earth, turn your palms up and then go ahead and let the hands circle the arms. And now we're going to reverse the direction. So let the arms move out to the sides, snow angel them overhead, turn the palms into the center and bring that down. The whole time, the ribs, the low ribs stay contained, right? Inhale, up and overhead, out to the sides and up and overhead. Exhale, bringing the arms back down by the side. And let's do that one more time, friends. Inhale, wide sweep. exhale, up and over. Now let those arms come down into Shavasana style again, and just notice what you notice, what's going on in there. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to come on up. So you can just roll off of your bolster over to the right or left, push the floor away, and come on up to seated. And I forgot to warn you that we were going to be kneeling, so if that makes you want to grab a block, I obviously forgot to bring mine over. Please be patient with me. I slept horribly last night, so I'm a little messy in my head. If you're able to kneel, we're going to come into Hero's Pose, Virasana. I personally like a block or two if you need to. And if you need cross-legged or standing, those are definitely options. Sitting on the edge of a chair. And from there, right, sitting up nice and tall, think about that marionette string, that crown of the head reaching up. And then we're going to maintain the spine the whole time, so we isolate the shoulders. So now we're going to go into joint articulation. So go ahead, and I'm going to mirror you. You're going to turn the palm to the midline like we just did on the ground. We're going to reach the arm overhead without the ribs flaring. Now turn your palm out away from you, and then start to rotate back behind you without turning the chest, and keep rotating and really go slow and really work through this rotation right here. I'm going into what's called internal rotation. My shoulder is rolling forward, and it's almost like I can get my pinky finger to come down to my hip, right? And then slowly unroll that on the way back up, but take your time and let it be, I call it reluctant, right? Like the arm really doesn't want to go, it doesn't want to turn, but you get it to turn eventually, and then bring that back down by the side. We're going to do that again. Inhale. I like my hands on my ribs or the crown of my head so I can tell what my spine and the rest of my body are doing, right? Turn that palm out away from you and keep rotating and rotating and rotating and rotating and rotating, and try to move pretty slow, but if you're on a different pace than me, that is okay, right? And again, reluctantly unrotate, if that is such a phrase, a word, right? As you come up. Boy, I really want to turn into that on this side. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to go the other way. So come down, and I want you to turn your thumb all the way to the back of the room and try to bring your pinky finger towards your thigh, right? And that's internal rotation. Sorry about that. I think I just hit my mic. Now from there, you're going to go ahead and you're going to start to rotate up and back, right? And move that nice and slow, and eventually you need to unwind it. And exhale down. So go into internal rotation here, right? Starting the opposite way. And then go ahead and bring that all the way up and over, and really reluctantly unwind that rotation. Right there for me is like, woo, yowza, right? It doesn't hurt, but it's hard to find. And bring that down. Uncomfortable, right? Pause. We got the left arm to do. So again, if it helps you, put your hand on your ribs or your crown of your head so you know where your body is in space, right? Your torso. You're going to bring that left arm up, palm is into the midline initially. We turn it out, and then we keep rotating that thumb away from us, and we keep coming all the way down, hopefully not moving the spine, the chest, the hips, the low back, etc., right? And then reverse that and come all the way up. And you're going to turn that palm back in and bring that down. We'll do it one more time in this direction. Go ahead and reach that palm up. And turn that thumb out, 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 out. Coming down, moving into your rotation. And coming all the way up. You can see my concentration on my face, trying to keep my torso forward. Oh, that's hard right there. Okay, so now come down. And just to find that internal rotation and start with that, we're going to turn the thumb in towards the thigh and all the way behind us, like we could bring our pinky finger to the thigh. Just notice like the rotation, if it's any different than the other arm, right? And then go ahead and start to move back and up, and just try to keep it in as long as you can. Try to keep the chest forward, even as you de-rotate that arm, so to speak. And bring that back down. Turn the thumb all the way to the thigh and behind you. And bring that all the way up and in. Boy, this is where I really start to feel that broken wrist that never quite got all of its rotation back, is when I try to do it, the internal rotation first, and bring that all the way down. Go ahead and take your shoulder blades and move them through the 4 motions. So, instead of just kind of circling the shoulders willy-nilly, right? Think about the shoulder blades moving through all 4 of their motions. We'll go into it a little bit today. And go ahead and go the other way. I'm also trying to make this a 20-minute little, number that you guys can do, you folks can do. Come back to center. Now, we're going to go ahead and we're going to use that blanket in another way. So if you have a roller, you could use a roller here. Otherwise, you're going to use this blanket again. I'm going to re-roll mine. Mine's a little funky. So from there, have it out in front of you a good deal. I have the wall in front of me, so I'm just going to be back further on my mat. You can just go further forward. You're going to come down onto your belly, and you want that blanket to be under your palms, right, when you're extended out away from the body. So we've already done this overhead version a couple of times, right? Again, sensitive shoulder friends, injured shoulder friends, this might not be the sequence for you today, right? Now, if you can leave your forehead down, once you figure out what's going on, please do that. Two movements of the shoulder blades are called elevation and depression. Elevation is when they move up towards your ears. Depression is when they move down towards your buttocks, right? So with the forehead down on the ground, I'm going to stay up just a little bit so you can hear my voice. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to roll that blanket forward as I move my shoulder blades up to my ears. I don't go very far. I barely rolled the blanket, if you noticed that, if you looked at it, right? And then I'm going to pull my shoulder blades down to my buttocks, and with that blanket, I just get to roll the blanket back, yeah? Roll the shoulder blades, elevate them, roll that blanket forward, shoulder blades up towards ears, and depression. Shoulder blades move down the back, and I end up rolling the blanket back to me. Let's do that again. You can still do the feet down, thighs up, right? Think of all of the things that keep your low back protected and your abdomen contained when you're still doing the motion, by the way, when you're doing your shalabasanas and your low cobras, right? So one more time, roll forward, and then when you're there, pause there for a moment and push a little forward and down. We're going to come back to this in downward dog, so I want you to feel it. And now, rather than moving your shoulders down away from your ears, extend your ears and your head, your crown of the head forward away from the shoulders. Yeah? Okay. Now go ahead and release those arms down. Bring them by the sides. Tone the belly up so you can come up through a half push-up. And now we're going to move that into downward dog. So when I talk about rolling the blanket forward, the reason we just did that was the tactile, right? The impressionable experience, the imprint. And so keep that. So have your hands about 2 inches in front of your shoulders, right? And then from there, you're going to move your shoulder blades down the back to start. Curl the toes under. And when you start to come up, I want you to roll your blanket forward, right? And you're not on the blanket. Please don't be on the blanket, right? I want that same work that you just did. Bend your knees. Don't worry about the lower body right now. Again, if I were to roll my blanket forward and my shoulder blades gently elevate towards my ears, now extend your ears and crown of the head forward between the hands so that your ears move away from the shoulders, not the shoulders away from the ears. Take a breath. Okay. Now, go ahead and you can walk your hands back to your feet or your feet forward to your hands. Doesn't really matter. Hands on the shins and reach the chest forward, Ardha Uttanasana. We're going to do 4 of these. Exhale, folding in. So now the shoulder blades do go into a little bit of depression here, right? When I come up, I move my shoulder blades towards my buttocks. I keep my solar plexus contained, my front ribs knitted. Exhale again, trying to bring a little bit of last week's work in, right? One more time, push into the shins, shoulder blades down the back, tone the abdomen, tone the ribs, hands on hips, elbows up. Move those elbows together like they're magnetized, your inner elbows, and come all the way up to standing. And bring those arms on down by your side. So now we're going to go into a couple of standing poses and try to bring some of that work with us. But we're going to go through sun salutations so that we can play a little bit with that rolling the blanket forward motion in our downward dog. So I talk often, right, about how often the shoulders are all the way up and the upper traps are taking over, and you can just see how tight that looks. Or when you say move your shoulders away from your ears, people will box their shoulders down, right, and then there's this rigid moving down. And so with this one, we're letting our shoulder blades lift a little bit, but not I'm getting a little technical, right? But not our upper traps. We don't lift from the upper traps. We lift from this side body and lengthen out of here. And then we're going to lengthen the crown of our head up so our ears come up and out away from our shoulders, right? Standing at the top of the mat. Inhale forward and up. This is the line we've been working. Keep those ribs in, friends. Exhale. Feel free to bend those knees. Know when you need to impress.
Hands on the shins, shoulder blades towards the buttocks. Find the abdomen. Bend your knees, plant your hands, step, step. We're actually going to go to downward dog. So roll your blanket forward as you move into downward dog. See if that doesn't help you find that you get a little bit of lift, right? Those shoulder blades move a little bit towards the front of your mat. But more than that, that helps you lengthen the spine, right? Now, can you reach the crown of the head a little forward so the ears move away from the shoulders? Don't be rigid with that. Don't be crazy. Take another breath. How are the ribs? How's the belly? Now, inhale the right leg up into the air behind you and exhale it forward between the hands. Left knee comes down. If you need to pat it, you can pat it. Uncurl the toes and reach the arms forward to come on up, right? So even here for just a moment, go ahead and lift your shoulders up into your ears, right? And then just gently soften them down. And then think of the crown of the head reaching up and the ears moving up away from the shoulders. And exhale, hands down, step back. Roll your blanket forward as you move to downward dog. Inhale the left leg up into the air behind you. Float it forward, right knee down, uncurl the toes. Inhale, arms forward and up. Again, let your shoulders lift up today, right? You can even squeeze a little bit up, but then just let them soften down without boxing them down. Now from there, right, find that you're reaching through the fingers, that the crown of the head is lifting up so the ears come up away from the shoulders. Exhale, coming down, and as you step back to downward dog, roll your blanket forward, right? Feel free to bend the knees all day to help you find the shoulder stuff. Hypermobile friends, don't just dump into your shoulders here, right? Tone your armpits up just a little bit towards the back of the shoulder. That's not everybody. That's my flexible, my hypermobile shoulders, right? Inhale, right leg up into the air behind you. Step that foot forward. Moving into a twist. Left hand, and we're going to work it a little differently just so you know. We're going to go a little wide and forward, right? And then you're going to inhale and reach that right arm up. Start reaching up to the sky initially. Now you can bring that left knee down, that is totally fine. If it is lifted, left thigh works up, right? That's going to keep that hip working up. And then from there, maybe you reach that right arm back behind you a little bit and find a little upper back bend. So the shoulder blades move in together into what's called retraction. And I open my chest. Bring that right hand down, and as you step back to downward dog, roll your blanket forward. Inhale, left leg up into the air behind you. Step the left foot forward. Right hand's going to come out and a little wide, a little forward and wide, I should say. Start by just reaching the left fingertips up to the ceiling initially. If you want to bring the right knee down, you can. Otherwise, work the right thigh, work the right heel back so the legs stay neutral, right? Now from there, I'm going to inhale, pardon me, I'm going to start to move my shoulder blades in towards my center of my body, my spine, and move into a little bit of extension through the front of that left shoulder, right? Well, a little bit the right shoulder too, but the left shoulder is the one we're focusing on. Take another breath and bring that hand down. Roll your blanket forward as you move back into that downward dog. But keep reaching the crown of the head forward too, right? And make sure it's not the upper traps doing that work. Find that length from your side of your shoulders, your side body, I should say. Inhale, right leg up into the air behind you. Exhale, forward between the hands. And this time you're going to come up into a crescent pose. You know the knee can go down, right? You can bend that back knee so you keep the pelvis neutral and keep the containment of the ribs. Take another breath from here. We're going to open this up into Warrior Two. So you're going to start to bring the hands to the chest, drop your left heel down. If you need to adjust your feet at all, do. I usually walk my right foot over the left a little bit. And then inhale the arms out. Now turn your palms up. We do this a lot. I teach this one a decent amount, right? Because it helps the upper trap soften down so you can get some space around the neck and the head, right? Now from there, we're going to go into side angle. So I want you to reach forward and either forearm on leg, or you can come to a block outside of the leg today. And then that left arm, I'm not mirroring you, I'm saying that out loud. Go ahead and reach all the way over. Oh dear, hopefully I did all right. Keep those ribs contained. And you remember that articulation we just did a little bit ago? Doing the same thing here. Start to go ahead and rotate your pinky finger up and then behind you. As you rotate your arm all the way back behind you, right? So you bring the pinky finger towards the hip.
And then go ahead and rotate the thumb up to the ceiling and keep rotating it as you reach that arm all the way over and bring it down in front of you. Inhale, what is moving when you do that? Hopefully just the shoulder, right? Ha, 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 ha. Do that one more time. But I really have to watch my ribs. I have to watch that right hip from popping out. My head wants to drop. I got all kinds of things that want to happen to make this happen, so to speak. And then inhale back up and lengthen, lengthen, lengthen. Look down, hands down. Roll your blanket forward as you step back into your downward facing dog. I'm going to switch my position so I still face camera. Inhale the left leg up into the air behind you. Float it forward between the hands. And inhale, arms forward and up to come up into Crescent Pose. Knee can stay down, but do know we're transitioning, right? And then the hands come down to the heart, the right heel comes down, left foot might walk over to the right a little bit, and rotate your body into Warrior Two. You can hear I'm working, right? Bring those arms out, turn those palms up and really reach through those fingers, right? Find that length and that spaciousness. And then from there, we're gonna come into side angle. So if you want that block, you can have that block there, right? And then go ahead and either forearm onto leg or arm down onto block, hand, and reach that right arm all the way over. So again, I am not mirroring. Now turn your pinky finger up to the ceiling and all the way back behind you, and keep rotating, rotating, rotating until the pinky finger ends up turning forward towards the long side of your mat, we'll say, the way you're facing. And then go ahead and bring that all the way over. So the first time is just trying to figure out what this dang rotation is, right? And then bring it down by your side hip. Now mobilize shoulder by stabilizing the rest of the body. Inhale, reach over. Don't let those ribs puff out, right? Turn the pinky finger up, keep rotating. Try not to move the spine, try not to move the chest, try not to move the head, the hips, and bring that all the way over. Funny, when you do this practice and you don't have to speak, it's not quite so much, whew, trying to talk and do it is something. Inhale, reach that all the way over and lengthen, 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 lengthen. Look down, bring the hands down. As you go back to your downward dog, roll your blanket forward. Take a breath there. Bring your knees down. Now let your knees or your hips move to one side of the knee. I'm not going to specify right or left with this, but I will say that you can either stack the top ankle and the bottom arch, or you can separate the feet. This part doesn't matter so much. We're going to go into that area and stretch out around the inner edge of the shoulder blade, right? I call this one mermaid. So that bottom hand, bring it out a little bit. Don't have it right under you. Have it out just a little bit. And then the top hand's going to come behind the head. I don't pull on my head at all. It's just placement. Take an inhale and then let that top elbow drop down and let it swing in towards the bottom elbow. Inhale. I find that's where I get the most stretch. It's not that I'm aggressively reaching it in, right? But I come down, my body stops at some point, my ribs, but I can still let my elbow just gently swing in towards the other elbow. Inhale, up. We're going to add on. This time when you come down and in, we're going to go ahead and we're going to go into circles. Let that elbow circle away from you and up to the sky. Back towards the hip side and down and in, and then reverse that circle. Go back towards the hip side, reach it all the way up and over, and come back down. Now come on up. You can always drop down to forearm and do it again. It gets a slightly different spot, but I don't have the time to do that in today's video. Switch to the other side. Again, whatever leg version works for you is just wonderful. Bottom hand is actually out a little bit. Top hand behind the head. Take an inhale and exhale. Go ahead and let that elbow come down. So the torso turns, right? And then let the elbow swing in from there. Inhale, back up. 2 more. Exhale, in. Inhale, up. This time we're going to do those circles. So go ahead and come on down and in, and then reach the elbow forward, away from the hip, all the way up and over, and come back to where you started, and then go back to the hip first, reaching all the way up and over, and then go ahead and press down into your hands to come up. So we have one more little exercise here, and that is this. Gomukasana Arms is that one where one goes down and in and one comes up, and then you grab the fingers. We're not going to grab the fingers or a strap or any such thing. We're actually going to try and work a little bit more strength with it. So
What I mean by that, right, is you're going to bring your arms out. I'm sorry for having my back to you, but I think there's more information on this side. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to turn my right palm all the way up, and I'm going to turn my left thumb down and back as far as it can. So I've got one arm going into external rotation, one going into internal. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to keep myself completely still with the exception of the movement of my arm at the shoulder, the humerus joint, right? And obviously the rest of the arm follows. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go through that a couple of times. So one palm will turn up as the other turns down, right? And then the next time that the right palm is up, you're going to add in. Go ahead and start to bring it like you're going into Gomukasana Arms, but don't touch your back and don't pull against anything. And try to bring that elbow in and up, right? And then go ahead and bring it all the way out. And then switch the hands. One will rotate down and back, the other one all the way up, and move into Gomukasana Arms. And all the way outstretched. Re-rotate. Inhale in. Exhale out. Switch the rotation and inhale it in. Exhale it out. One more on each side, right? We started with the right arm going up, if I remember correctly. I might be wrong. Wouldn't be the first time. And switch directions and go in one more time. And go ahead and bring that all the way out. Bring the hands down. And I said that was the last of the strength, but hopefully you got time to do one more stretch with me, right? So this one goes something like this. And it still will have a little bit of strength because I believe personally that the best way to stretch the muscles is to add a little bit of toning while you're doing it. So your right arm is going to come out to the side about at the height of the elbow, but then slide it up about an inch or so. It'll help get a big muscle in the armpit line. Well, it's not a very big muscle, but it's a muscle in the armpit line. And then you're going to go ahead and you're going to roll over onto your right side. Pardon me, I got to move my mic pack. And then from there, you can let the head come down to the ground, and you can just kind of bend the knees so you're not in your low back. I'm using my left hand kind of like a training wheel. But instead of rolling all the way over, which is a lot of people do here, stay out of it just a little bit and then push your right hand, your arm, your forearm, your elbow, right? Push the right arm down, down, down actively. And that's going to help you stretch that whole, hopefully you're feeling this through the front of the chest muscles, maybe a little bit through that muscle that runs from the chest through the armpit, your bicep tendon, right? You might feel the deltoid, the front of the shoulder. Keep pressing down the whole time you're doing this into the right hand. Now rock forward about an inch, maybe two, and then try to pick your whole right arm up off of the ground. Tone the belly and bring that down. Go ahead and have your left arm come out, cactus arm, right? But slide it up just a little bit so you're about an inch above the shoulder line. And then roll onto your left side body. And again, don't go too far into it. I mean, I even used to teach it that way before I understood more about the body, right? I learn more all the time. So instead of rolling all the way in and stretching it that way, I'm going to push my left arm, my hand, my arm, my elbow, everything that I have on the ground, I'm going to push actively down into the earth so that I have toning while I stretch the muscles, right? And that way I'm not hanging in the joint or pulling too much on any tendons or ligaments or anything like that, right? They're toned while I'm stretching them. One more breath. I'm going to come down about an inch or two with my body, and then I'm going to try to lift my whole left arm up off the floor. And I'm going to notice everything in my body distorts that tries to make that happen. Bring that down. And then here's the next news. Roll onto your back. Now, if you feel like you need something else before Shavasana, take it. We won't be in a long Shavasana, right? You can always stay there longer. You're at home. But let's take a couple of moments. You can extend the legs out. I'm going to go back to that constructive rest pose where my feet are wide and my knees lean in. Arms out a little bit, palms turned up, eyes closed. Softening every muscle. So we weren't trying to get a deeper range of motion today. We were working with the range of motion we have towards mobility in the shoulder joint, which is also different than flexibility. A lot of people use them interchangeably. They are not. They're different. Soften the jaw, the tongue. Check into the shoulders and the upper back, the chest.
Let's take about 5 more breaths here, friends. If you want to stay on the ground, please feel free. You are in your own practice, in your space. If you do need to get up, feel free to add any little movements, she says as she yawns. And come on up to seated, kneeling, whatever works. And just very briefly, bring your hands together in front of your chest, inhale. Exhale, bow your head in. Moment of gratitude, my friends, that we have these beautiful bodies and these beautiful shoulders. Namaste.